Here's a shocking fact: studies show that 70% of people feel bored during most of their daily conversations. That's right, nearly 3 out of 4 conversations don't even spark real interest. And here's the kicker: the average person spends about 27 minutes a day in small talk, which is often considered dull and unmemorable. So, why do so many conversations fall flat? It's simple: most people follow the same predictable script. Ask the usual questions, give the usual answers, and end up losing interest fast. But what if you could turn things around? What if you could make every conversation feel fresh and exciting? In this article, I'll show you how to play the opposite game, a simple but powerful trick that will help you break free from boring talks. By using some unexpected strategies like flipping expectations, asking unusual questions, and challenging the norm, you can transform any dull chat into a captivating one. Ready to learn how to make your conversations more engaging and memorable? Keep reading to find out how. Chapter 1: Flip the script. Mastering the art of the unexpected. Sometimes the best way to keep a conversation alive is by flipping expectations. When we hear a statement, our minds immediately search for a response that fits within a known structure. However, by offering something unexpected, you can spark curiosity and increase engagement. It's the principle of surprise, and it's incredibly powerful in both conversations and presentations. A great example of this is comedian Ricky Gervais, who thrives on throwing out controversial, yet thought-provoking statements that break the mold. Research shows that humans love novelty. A 2017 study from the University of California found that we are more likely to pay attention when something unexpected happens, even in the middle of a normal conversation. By flipping the script, whether by contradicting yourself or changing the direction of the topic, you can ensure the conversation stays lively. A simple way to do this is by giving an answer no one expects, or offering a completely different angle on a commonly accepted idea. This doesn't mean being controversial for the sake of it. Rather, it's about strategically steering the conversation in a new direction. When you offer something unexpected, you're not just keeping people interested, you're encouraging them to think more critically. If a friend talks about their favorite vacation spot, instead of agreeing with them, ask, what if that destination was actually overrated? This challenges the norm and opens the door to a deeper conversation. Studies also support this idea. According to Dr. Tali Sharrow, a neuroscientist at University College London, our brains are wired to process novelty more deeply. When you surprise your listeners, you keep their brains engaged and focused. You'll find that a conversation that could have been dull becomes more memorable when you offer a perspective no one anticipated. Chapter 2: The Power of Contradictions. Turning boring into fascinating. Contradictions have the power to change a mundane conversation into something engaging. The key is using them wisely. When you challenge a commonly accepted idea, it creates friction, and friction leads to curiosity. Take Albert Einstein, for example, who famously said, "The definition of genius is taking the complex and making it simple." He constantly flipped conventional wisdom, sparking endless conversations about science and the universe. It's all about questioning assumptions. In a study published by the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, researchers found that people who actively question assumptions in conversation are seen as more engaging and persuasive. Instead of just nodding along with the crowd, try offering a counterpoint. For instance, if everyone is talking about the benefits of multitasking, you might suggest that multitasking can actually reduce productivity. This is a simple contradiction that opens up space for an interesting debate. But how can you make contradictions work for you? First, ensure that your point is grounded in facts. If you're contradicting something that's commonly believed, back it up with evidence. This not only makes your argument stronger but also makes the conversation more informative. A great example comes from the book Freakonomics, where authors Stephen D. Levitt and Stephen J. Dubner show how conventional wisdom is often wrong. They highlight how many accepted truths in society, like the idea that teachers are the best predictors of student success, are actually flawed. Another way to leverage contradictions is by gently challenging the person you're speaking with. When you do this with respect, it encourages a healthy exchange of ideas. The goal isn't to win an argument but to keep the conversation moving in a way that's mentally stimulating for everyone involved. When you say something contradictory but thought-provoking, people will be more likely to stay tuned into what you have to say. Chapter 3: Reverse Psychology. Captivate with counterintuitive strategies. Reverse psychology is one of those fascinating psychological tricks that can turn a conversation around. The principle is simple: by suggesting the opposite of what you want, people are often compelled to do what you actually want. It's a technique used by advertisers, negotiators, and even parents. A well-known example is Steve Jobs, who once said that Apple's mission wasn't just about making technology, it was about challenging the status quo. In a way, he was using reverse psychology, pushing the world to rethink the value of technology. In social situations, reverse psychology works because it plays on our natural desire to resist being told what to do. A study from the University of Virginia revealed that people tend to push back against overt control, but when given the freedom to choose, they become more invested in the decision. If you want someone to engage with a topic more deeply, instead of saying, "You should definitely consider this," try saying, "It might not be for everyone, but you should take a look anyway." This gentle reverse suggestion can spark interest and curiosity. One famous example of reverse psychology in conversation comes from the world of marketing. A company called Dos Equis used the reverse psychology concept in their "Most Interesting Man in the World" campaign. They didn't advertise their beer directly. Instead, they presented their product through the lens of a highly intriguing, almost mythical figure, making the viewer curious about the brand. By presenting the opposite, an adventurous, mysterious persona, people couldn't resist the urge to know more. This technique can be incredibly useful in debates or negotiations, too. If you're trying to convince someone of your opinion, start by subtly suggesting the opposite. For example, in a meeting where you want to propose an idea, you might start by saying, "This idea may not work, but here's why I think it might be worth exploring." The counterintuitive nature of this statement draws people in and makes them more open to hearing your full argument. In everyday conversation, reverse psychology also works wonders. If you're trying to get someone to agree with a plan, you could say something like, "I wouldn't blame you if you're not interested in this, but I think it could be a good idea." This subtle tactic often leads people to reconsider their initial reluctance and embrace the idea you're presenting. If you're enjoying these strategies, don't forget to subscribe for more tips on how to be a great speaker and keep your conversations fresh. Chapter 4: The Yin and Yang of Storytelling. Embrace both sides of the narrative. Storytelling is a powerful tool in any conversation, but to truly captivate your audience, you need to balance both the highs and the lows. You've probably heard of the hero's journey, a common storytelling structure that keeps people on the edge of their seats. But what happens when you flip this structure around? By mixing contrast, light and dark, wins and losses, you make the story more relatable and impactful. Think about it, no one remembers a perfect story. People remember the struggles, the twists, and the unpredictability. The key to this approach is understanding that humans naturally respond to contrast. A 2018 study by the Journal of Cognitive Neuroscience found that the human brain is wired to pay attention to contradictions and unexpected turns. When you're telling a story, whether in casual conversation or a presentation, you need to create a balance between positive and negative elements. For example, if you're sharing a success story, don't just focus on the outcome, talk about the obstacles you faced along the way. The setbacks make the victory feel that much sweeter and more inspiring. One example of this in action comes from the movie Rocky. The main character doesn't just win the fight at the end, he struggles, gets knocked down, and overcomes enormous personal and physical hurdles. That contrast between struggle and triumph makes the story unforgettable. The same applies in conversations. When you share both sides of a situation, the tough moments as well as the triumphs, you engage your listeners' emotions, making them feel more connected to your story. Balancing the light and dark sides of your narrative isn't about being negative, it's about showing the complexity of real life. People connect to stories that feel true to their own experiences, and life is rarely one-dimensional. By embracing both sides of the narrative, you'll find that your stories not only captivate but also resonate on a deeper level. Chapter 5: Uncommon Questions, Uncommon Answers. The secret to sparking interest. Ever been stuck in a conversation where the questions are the same old, "How's work?" or "What did you do this weekend?" They might be polite, but they rarely spark excitement. If you want to make a conversation memorable, it's time to get creative with your questions. Asking uncommon, thought-provoking questions can take the conversation to a whole new level. In his book The Art of Thinking Clearly, Rolf Dobelai explains that the quality of your questions determines the quality of your conversations. He suggests that asking questions that make people think, questions that lead to deeper insights, can transform even the dullest interactions into engaging ones. For example, instead of asking, "How was your day?" try asking, "What was the most surprising thing that happened today?" This simple shift invites the person to reflect and share something unique, making the conversation more interesting for both of you. Psychological studies have shown that we are more likely to engage in a conversation when we feel that the questions being asked are personal and intriguing. According to a study in psychological science, participants in the conversation who asked open-ended, thought-provoking questions reported feeling more connected to the other person and more satisfied with the interaction. Another way to spark interest is by asking questions that seem unusual but have a deeper meaning. For example, instead of, "What's your favorite movie?" ask, "If your life were a movie, what would the title be?" Questions like this challenge the listener to think outside the box and share something that reveals more about their personality. This makes the conversation not just more engaging but also more personal. By asking uncommon questions, you're also positioning yourself as someone who isn't just talking to talk. You're engaging in a conversation that has purpose and meaning. And that's how you build deeper, more memorable connections. Chapter 6, the opposite of, yes, how to push boundaries and break through social norms. Sometimes, the best way to get a conversation going is by breaking the social norms we all take for granted. In his book The Charisma Myth, Olivia Fox-Cabane explains how stepping out of the usual conversational scripts can make you stand out. Most people feel the need to agree with others or follow the crowd. But when you play the opposite game and push boundaries, you invite a richer exchange of ideas and create a more dynamic conversation. This is where reverse psychology can work wonders. When you deliberately choose to disagree or challenge the typical response, you encourage others to think critically. For instance, if everyone is praising a popular new movie, you might say, "Honestly, I don't think it's that great," and explain why. This doesn't just make you interesting, it also makes the conversation more stimulating, as it encourages others to think about their own opinions. However, breaking social norms doesn't mean being disrespectful or rude. It's about offering a fresh perspective or questioning things that are usually accepted without thought. Research in social psychology shows that people are more likely to remember someone who challenges their assumptions in a respectful way. It doesn't have to be confrontational, but when you dare to question the status quo, you push the conversation into new, more exciting territory. When you use this technique, don't just go against the grain for the sake of it. Ensure that your opposition is based on solid reasoning or genuine curiosity. This way, you're offering an alternative view that isn't just contrary for the sake of it but adds value to the discussion. The more you practice breaking these conversational norms, the more natural it will feel, and soon, you'll find that your discussions are both more enjoyable and thought-provoking. Enjoyed these tips? Subscribe for more insights on how to master the art of conversation and keep your talks engaging, no matter who you're speaking with. With these techniques, flipping the script, using contradictions, asking uncommon questions, and challenging norms, you'll never have a boring conversation again. Whether you're speaking with friends, colleagues, or strangers, these strategies will help you engage your listeners and keep the dialogue fresh. So, go ahead, play the opposite game and watch your conversations become more dynamic and memorable.